As you guys know, so here in our member Q&A training calls here, Zach and James have uh, basically taken out of their schedule to share with us how they've built their digital agencies. And when we were talking on the call, this is going to be an awesome call because, like Zach and James both said, this is literally something that any dad could do, any person can do, even with a job or a business that you currently have. I would argue that if you're a business owner in your local area, you're probably pretty well networked, and I think leveraging your network for a business like this, Zach made the comment, online businesses are way easier than people maybe think. They might think it's a bigger hurdle to overcome on the front end than it actually is. So they're basically going to give you the playbook today on how they get started, kind of the overview. And what I hope this does is create future conversations, gives you opportunity to go to these guys because they are the experts in this area in our group, and you're able to have this conversation with them today. So James and Zach, thank you for being here. I got you guys spotlighted. I'm going to kind of kick it off. If I could go to both of you, and maybe as you guys are left and right on my screen, I'll go James first, then Zach. Can you give me the 60-second overview of the current business? Because what I want to do is paint a picture of what's possible and then dive into kind of how to get there, right? So can you maybe the framework of like where you were in the proverbial, like where I was in the moment, the opportunity that I saw, what I plan to do with it, and now what I see as possible. Could you give me those, like, just kind of in 60 to 90 seconds, that answer that question?
Yeah. So Zach is actually my brother-in-law. I think he highlighted that in the Slack group a while ago. And it was about a year ago. I was working full-time, getting ready to start an MBA program in the fall. And Zach hit me up and said, like, hey dude, I've been doing this digital marketing thing. I think you should do it. I think at the time he said, more than me about this stuff, because we had previously had a business together. And so we knew a lot about like general SEO, local businesses, how to sell to local businesses. Like, all this stuff, like you should give it a try. And so I'm like, yeah, let's give it a shot, right? It's worth it. It's worth trying it out. So put a little bit of time in, didn't really take off. I went to do the MBA in the fall, and didn't really have time to work on it or anything. And then it was in January that I said, okay, I got to figure this out, right? Like I have to be able to multiply my time. And so I hired a couple people in the Philippines as of February. I had 3 customers from the fall that I had taken through like the winter, and that kind of was just pittering along. I'm not doing a phenomenal job. And then February, I got my 4th customer, and that was when we took off. So today I've got 8 employees, 2 in the US. I'm hiring a 9th who will be based out of potentially Brazil. And, we're doing just shy of 20,000 a month in gross revenue. My profit on that, like with the amount of money I'm like reinvesting into employees and software and like growth, is around $11,000 to $12,000 a month. Varies, but certainly could be higher if I was just kind of happy with like how things were going and didn't want to grow anymore. And for me, like I look at this and I think this is the best path to me making $100,000 a month, like taking home $100,000 a month. And I think realistically, I can be doing that in the next 12 months. So that's what keeps me going and focused on it.
Awesome. Zach, I'm going to kick it to you, man.
Yeah, so similar to James, we had this online business helping local businesses get reviews. And we learned a lot. That was kind of like fresh out of college or soon after. Learned a ton there, but our monthly price, it was a subscription, which I loved, but our monthly price was too low to make the sales make sense. And so it kind of fizzled out over time. And then what happened is I started researching different online businesses. I knew that I wanted to own an online business so I could work from anywhere. I know I wanted it subscription based so I could have monthly recurring revenue. And those were kind of like my biggest things: online business, monthly recurring revenue. So I started researching all these different business models, found this like blog and found this course, took this course to learn SEO, to learn website building and all that. And basically applied a lot of the things we had been doing right in the first company to the new one. In that first company, we had one client that was a website build, and the guy paid us $325 a month, never needed anything. And I was like, if I could have that client times 20, I could quit my job. And it just kind of clicked. And I was like, okay, here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to set up, cold callers in the Philippines, bring in the leads, all close the deals. And we're going to target very specifically this niche, this type of client that we already had one of. James built the website, and it kind of got me thinking. And over like 2 years later, finally, I jumped into it, learned the skills I needed to know, how to build sites, how to do SEO, paid for like this expensive course at the time, which was like $5,000. I was like, is this a waste of money? Like, this is crazy. Spent the money, learned the skills, and then started just stacking deals on top of each other. Now I'm like just around 40,000 a month, and it's opened a ton of doors. So if I focused on it more, it would grow faster, but there's been lots of other fun stuff I've been focusing on. So that's kind of where I'm at now. And in the future, I just want to have it, I need to make some good hires so it keeps growing, and then focus on those other things I want to do. So
what's really cool is we were just talking with Parker on Monday during our office hours call and talking about building out teams overseas and virtually. So like these two conversations are kind of like really going together. The one thing that comes up for me, like this falls perfectly into the location freedom idea of our group, right? So I look at this and I think, well, while it's a job and while you're working hours, I could be on a road trip across the country with my family. And as long as I have an internet access or a coffee shop, I could be doing exactly what you guys are doing. Am I right to assume that? Am I thinking correctly?
Yeah, Zack's all about that.
I've never met like one of my employees face to face. There's like 7 in the Philippines, 2 in the US. We just know each other online, and they're ballers. They all do great work. So
I'm sorry. Can you guys hear that call that I got coming in?
Mm-mm.
Sorry.
No.
It's going on my end. My fault. We'll edit that part out. No, that's super awesome. I'm super encouraged. Like 20K, 40K, that's wild. I think about a guy that I know from the Twitter space, a guy named Sean O'Dowd. TJ knows who I'm talking about. He's a consulting guy, and his whole thing is, I think, James, one of you mentioned where you think this is the best path to 100K a month, like bar none, no question, right? And clearly all it is it's scale at some point. You've got the fundamentals down. Now it's just like a math problem. How do we just put more in on the front end of the funnel to spit more out on the back end? What Sean does is takes that same concept with consulting, generates, you can either have a business. This is a business that generates cash and cash flow, and then he funnels that cash and cash flow into a real estate asset, right? So then he's making money with the business, and then the business is then funding his real estate deals. And so I think you guys, like this is the beginning of a similar exact concept. So when we were talking, we broke things down into 3 different categories: website, sales, and outsourcing. I'll let you kind of take the lead on how you want the conversation to look with those pillars, and then kind of going, taking it from there. Like, where would be the start? Somebody's starting at, most of these guys at 0, right? What should we be thinking about? Where should we start, and how should we approach this?
The way that I like to think about it is you need to have a little bit of confidence before you start making sales. So it's good to at least have an idea of how you're going to build the website and how you're going to do SEO. To build websites, I use this platform called duda.co. It's like drag and drop builder, super easy. I don't know how to code. I'm not like a technical guy at all. I'm more of a sales guy. So Duda is very easy, and it makes it really easy for my team to do all the websites. SEO wise, it comes down to two main things, which is content and then backlinks. So good quality content on a website, hitting the keywords that they want to rank for, and then backlinks, which is other websites that rank well, linking to your website will help you rank better. So that's the fundamentals. Understand the fundamentals, and then get on the sales. And like in my course, what I recommend is like get a cold caller right away. In the Philippines, they're like $500 a month, and get them on a good list. You can get lists from like Built With, Clay.com, Apollo, wherever you want to get a list. Try and target the best, like, because you're going to tie their script to the list. So get a really niche list that you want to focus on, that you would be really good at selling, that you have a connection to or something. Get a really good list, work your script to be simple and conform to that list. They'll start bringing appointments, and then you'll just be closing them. So that's why you can do this in your spare time if you have a cold caller, because they're setting appointments, and you just schedule them into around your schedule to start closing some deals. That's how you get sales. And then as you scale, outsourcing helps you stay focused on sales. So instead of having to build every website, do all the SEO, all that stuff, get someone in the Philippines, Pakistan, whatever, outsource, and you'll keep having time for sales. And as you grow, then you can hire people to do sales as well. And then it's all pretty dialed in. And like, even when you outsource, like my profit margin right now is like 75%. So if you fall, that's why one of the reasons I love this business model is like high profit margins. So your company can be making 40,000 a month and you're keeping 30 like in your pocket. It's crazy. So that's kind of the business model that I teach to people. But
James, do you have more to add to that?
I'll say there's two things I will add, right? So number one, I think what I've found, and Zack says outsourcing, and I think I know exactly what Zack's doing. So it's like it's important to delineate between outsourcing and like offshoring a team, right? Like you're not outsourcing in the sense of like I'm going to go hire somebody to handle all this for me. It's like you're building a team offshore. So like it's similar but different in the sense of like you're owning those processes and like they're full-time employees. And I think that's on like a better way to approach, because like you can build out, especially in like digital marketing and really any online business. It's like if you're just outsourcing, all you are is essentially a broker, right? Like you're finding a deal, you're like handing it off to somebody who can do the delivery. And when you build a team and you're like offshoring and like building up talent and like building out leadership, like now you have something that's somewhat proprietary, right? Like other people can do it, but it's a little bit higher of a bar than just somebody like going out and selling and then like passing it off to Vendasta to like actually deliver on link building and SEO. So I think that's important to like give yourself a little bit of a moat. You own the delivery. And that's what Zack does, right? I think it's important to delineate between outsourcing and like offshoring. The other thing I'll say, and like I learned a lot of lessons from Zack, right? Is he went through this for a year or 18 months before I got into it. And early on, because I was working a full-time job and doing an MBA, I didn't like time was my biggest limiting factor. And so I was like, well, you know what? I can't go figure out how to do the SEO, right? Like I know the basics of SEO, but like I don't want to go figure out like where am I going to build links? How am I going to do this? So it's like I hired somebody early on, paid them more than I like had coming in. Like I was losing money for the first few months, because like as you build out the systems, like you're paying for software, you're paying for employees, and like that one hire I made, now I actually just promoted him to like director of operations, and he's now hiring. So like I don't have, of my 9 employees, I only have 3 direct reports at this point, which is nice because I don't have to worry about making sure people are busy, making sure they have tasks to do, like making sure they're performing well, right? Like that would be hard for me to do with everything else I'm trying to juggle with 9 people. And so like having my guy in the Philippines, his name's Ken, he's grown really, like he's grown with my company. He's been he's been a huge part of our success and allows me to like truly multiply my time by handling a lot of the management of our team. So I would say like start early, right? Like put a team in place early. And if you're doing this as a side hustle, like don't look at it as like, oh, cool, I'm making $1,000. Like, let me put 800 of that in my pocket. Like invest in growth until you hit a point where it's like, awesome, we've hit scale. Now we just sell, and every dollar we're selling, like every dollar I sell now, I'm at a point where like basically every 20 customers, I need a new SEO person on the team. But until that point, like all of our systems are just dialed in. Like I don't have to, there's no incremental cost for new customers outside of like the $12 a month I pay for their website. So it took a little while to get there, but now I'm like, every sale I make, I'm keeping, 95% of that is profit.
Yeah. Is like thinking tactically, right? So if I'm in the shoes of going back to, when you first started, you mentioned the website. Does everything start with the website when you're going to a customer? Is that kind of the, like the breakdown, like you're building them the website and then it's all about the SEO and everything on the back end? Or can you walk me through that a little bit?
Yeah. So my thought process there is I want it as easy as possible for them to switch from what they're currently doing to me. So I don't have a startup fee. I don't have a contract. And when we have a client switch to us, we basically just explain, we're going to rebuild your whole website, every page, everything you've got. We're going to rebuild it. And then, your URL stays the same. Just one day we're going to switch it. And now you have the new site that the look and the feel is improved. We've improved some SEO stuff right away, but you've got all the same content, all the same pages, all the same pictures, just to get them to easily switch from what they've got to me. And then from there, we work on the SEO. So yeah, if someone only pays me for 1 month and then leaves, like I'll break even or maybe lose a tiny bit of money. Maybe still make a tiny bit of money, but like it's them staying forever, which builds the solid business. So that's what I'm going for.
When you like when you first started, you talked about paying for a course. Can you share a little bit about that experience? I know like you were going through the course and then it sounds like James, I don't know if you went through the same course. Like what did that look like? How valuable was that to you? And then I actually have a second part of the question, but can you go through that a little bit and just kind of tell us a little bit about that process and like who's doing this before that you were, who's your guru, you're the godfather of it all? Or maybe we'll save that for the Q&A so that the people on the podcast don't hear.
No, that's a good question. It was a different business model with all the same fundamentals. So I bought this course and it was focused on lead generation, which is building a website that I own, getting my own phone number. Let's say this website is for plumbing in Phoenix. I give it some random business name. I rank it well. And when people call my number, I then have these leads and I sell them to a local plumber and try and get a flat monthly rate, let's say $1,000 a month for all those calls I'm getting them each month. And that's the course that I bought. And so it taught me all the great fundamentals of how to build a website, how to do the SEO, that was the main focus of it. But there's a lot of problems with that because Google's cracking down on like Google My Businesses. And so it's harder to get one that's not legit live and to rank it well. So I'm glad I ended up not going that route. I have like one lead gen client that pays $500 a month. And that was like a ton of work up front to get all of that set up, to get the site ranking. It was a ton of work. And then finally I landed a client 6 months later. And I was just like, this is crazy. There's got to be a better way. And so then I kind of pivoted and I was like, okay, I kind of remembered that guy that James and I had paying us $325 a month that never talks to us. And I was like, that's the route. So I kind of pivoted, grabbed that skill set. But I had to figure out kind of the sales strategy on my own. And so now like in my course, that's what I teach is like how to build a site, how to do the SEO, but my sales strategy that I've kind of perfected. And then I teach outsourcing as well. So I didn't learn that in my course, but I just saw people struggling with the lead generation. And I was like, man, there's an opportunity for guys like Ken with this website to do over and over.
That was awesome. James, did you have any more on that?
Yeah, I think yeah, I didn't like actually take a course. So I mean, Zack actually created a course, right? Like to kind of follow this business model. And in the early stages of putting that together, he shared it with me, and I like went through it a little bit. But like I said before, right? Like my time was the big limiting factor. So like me going through a course to learn how to do SEO effectively wasn't the best use of time. Um, and so like I figured I can go hire somebody that's an expert at this, right? And then I can sell it. Like I know it well enough. Like I could go do SEO. It's just like it's a little tedious, it's time consuming, and like I don't feel like it's a high value like return on time for value. You know what I mean? So I went and hired somebody that was really good at it and like focused on what I was good at, which was selling, right? And like I actually had to like learn how to sell. I'm not like a natural salesman like Zack is. Um, and for me, like that was a good approach. If you don't know anything about SEO or like web development or anything at all, like it would benefit you to like, take like a curated course or like watch a YouTube video. Like you got to have some fundamentals to be able to sell it effectively. But having someone that's been doing it for 10 years in the Philippines do it for you, it's going to be like I've got what at this point like 51 customers that are active. I haven't lost a single customer in the 12 months I've been doing this, and like really like the 7 months since I've been doing it, like really focused on it. I haven't lost a single customer that we've onboarded and like got a site live for, because every
Mm.
single one of them is getting phenomenal results. Their impressions are going through the roof, and it's because my SEO team's awesome, right? Like they do a phenomenal job. I've lost a few where onboarding was just bad, and they went back to their old company, and like that's something I'm figuring out. But like I'm pretty proud of the fact that like for marketing agencies that a lot of times have bad reputations and like they take advantage of business owners, like we haven't lost a single customer because we do a really good job. And if it was just me, like based on a course trying to do it, like I wouldn't be able to do it for 50 customers and I wouldn't do a good job. So I think hiring was the key there for me.
That's incredible. Yeah, the chat's going wild with low churn right now. Zach, you had something more on that note.
Yeah, the cool thing too is like my churn is higher than James's for sure. I didn't have things set up as well in the beginning, and so there's been a learning curve. But James is just crushing it right from the start, and I almost envy James's um like procedures, and so I'm trying to get some things in place that he has, which is cool because you would think, oh, I've been doing it longer, mine is like better, or I know more, whatever. Like that's not the case. James is really good at those systems. I just kind of relied on my sales skills and just kept throwing in deals, but now I have a couple more that I'm losing, and so yeah, it's great to have James to talk with just to get those ideas of how he's setting up those exact systems, because he's killing it. He's doing really good.
Do you guys share employees and systems and stuff, or is everything independent?
Yeah, I'll answer this one. So we don't share employees. We don't share systems. I think we do have the same Zapier account. I don't know if Zach's using it because that's like our old software company. It's like still active and we have a Zapier account through there. So that's the only system we share. But, a lot of people would look at this and be like, um, like we are really collaborative, right? And a lot of people would think, well, man, it's like everything that everybody Zack sells is like somebody James can't sell, and like vice versa. And like I've actually gotten on a call with somebody before that like was a customer of Zack's, and I didn't sell them, but it's
But
like
They're like, dude, they're like, dude,
yeah,
we love Zach's company too much. No, it probably wasn't that.
yeah.
Wait, Zach, who? No.
I just like you have to have an abundance mindset, right? Like everything that I help Zack with, like Zack helps me. And honestly, when I started this out and like didn't have a ton of money and like didn't want to throw a bunch of money into it, Zack gave me the list that he was calling. He's like, here, dude, like take this list. You can call this list I'm calling, or you can call this other list I downloaded and like I'm not calling yet. Like go for it, right? Like, you have an abundance mindset, and like it's like kind of that rising tide raises all ships. And there's a lot of small businesses out there to sell to. And there's a lot of ways to do it, and like helping people out. Zach's been a huge help for me, and hopefully I've been able to help him out a little bit, like thinking through some things. And like we're both successful, right? Like Zach's success isn't precluding me from being successful at all.
Yeah. That's a great point. And that was one of the things I mentioned in the chat earlier was just the fact that even with the guys on the call here, like we're all in different parts of the country. We all have different local markets. We all have different skill sets. This is literally something that we could all have a group going together where we're all winning at a super high level together. No question. That being said, we're going to transition here shortly in a minute or two into the Q&A because the sheet is blowing up with a bunch of questions. So obviously the content that you guys are talking about is definitely striking the right chord. As we leave the podcast portion of this episode, I want to just leave, like, if it's 3, 4, 5, like quick low hanging fruit that somebody could go from today and they want to like start doing this. And maybe in the next, today's Thursday, by Monday, they're like, hey, I want to try to launch something. What's my minimum viable product? What's my MVP of like what I could look at? What are just a few things that somebody could take before we dive into the crazy detailed questions here from the group? Is there just a general handful of things that you could leave somebody with?
One of the things I've been thinking is like, no matter what you're doing, your most precious resource is time. And so I would go on onlinejobs.ph or We Work Remotely and just find a really good personal assistant. If your issue is like, oh, I can't build this or whatever on the side, and you don't even know what they're going to do yet, like just hire someone and you'll be like, oh, wow, they could do this thing for me. They could do this thing for me. They could do this thing for me. And you'll have so many things that you're like, wow, anything on the computer they can do. And so that would be like the first step. It's just like, especially if you have extra money, which most of us probably do, have an extra couple $1,000 a month or whatever, like spend, because it's that mindset that most people can't get over. Like, oh, I'm going to hire someone. Like, what? I'm going to hire someone in a different country. Like, that's a huge differentiator, because when I look at like a landscaping company or my friends' other companies, it's like, they're like, yeah, we make 5 to 10% profit margin. They have all employees in the US. Once you learn how to leverage people in the Philippines or wherever, like my profit margins would be 5 or 10% as well, except I have a team of 7 people that I pay for the price of one, So
And at the same
like
time, you're providing you're still providing an incredible lifestyle for that person, just because the cost to you is not a lot. Where they're at in the world, in the in their life, that's a very you're providing predictability and income in their life and giving them a life that they would never otherwise have without your team.
Totally, they're so grateful. It's like an amazing job for them. The conversion rate is like they're getting like 30,000-40,000 Philippine pesos a month, which is awesome. So they're stoked. This one guy, like my best cold caller, makes $700 a month, provides for his family, his sister, his parents, because their door got like looted or whatever. And so he's providing for like 3 families with this one, you think $700 a month is nothing. That's providing for 3 families basically. So that guy grinds so hard because he needs to. He wants to support everybody. But if there's one takeaway, it's like get an assistant, free up your time so you can pursue those things and create the revenue and the money you want, or the time freedom to be with your family. Like that's probably the biggest takeaway, I'd say.
That's awesome. James?
Yeah, I like that, what Zack said. And, I think there's value in like having somebody 40 hours a week kind of at your disposal. It takes time to make sure they're using their time effectively. But, there were times when I was like paying somebody and like they weren't even really doing anything, but I'm like, well, we're going to have them do something soon. I don't want to have to like rehire, and they're pretty solid. So anyway, I think, a step down from that, right? Like if you can't like shell out the $600 a month, or you don't even have like the time to figure out how to like get them effective, and you want to figure out like how does this business model work, like throw up a landing page, call your friends or text your friends. Like it's like the Alex Hormozy stuff, right? Like go through your phone and find people that own businesses or know people who own businesses. Just like call them, text them, like get 100 calls out. Like take 2 days, get 100 calls a day out, and just like see if you can sell somebody, right? Like say, hey, I do websites and SEO, and like you keep it that simple. And like just like the level of trust. The hardest thing in this business is that nobody trusts marketing agencies. Nobody trusts them. They think they're all garbage, right? So like that's the biggest hurdle. And if you can like reach out to someone you know where you already have a level of trust and say, hey, here's what I'm doing, I think I can help you. That's like, I guarantee you that's probably like a 50% close rate if you can like get somebody interested. So it doesn't have to be super complicated, and then you can like figure it out on the back end, and yeah, I don't know. It doesn't have to be that hard to get started.
And I'll add to that one more thing. It's like one of my first clients that helped me quit my job that I had was a guy I played volleyball with, and he's a dentist that owns like 4 locations. And I brought it up and we were talking about it, and he's like, hey, I actually have a meeting tomorrow with this company that I think I'm going to go with, but would you come and kind of like tell me what you think? I'm like, sure. I went, and this company proposed like $5,000 a month for his branches to do all this stuff. And he asked me about it after, and I was like, yeah, it looked fancy and clean. I mean, honestly, I could do all that for you if you want and just give you a lower price and do like $2,000 a month. And I was thinking in my head, like $2,000 a month, that is a game changer. I could like quit my job. This would be huge. And he's like, oh yeah, that'd be great. Easy sale. I still have him. He's added more locations. Now it's like 2,500 a month, soon to be 3,000 a month. And it's just like, wow, that was so easy because I brought it up and had the confidence in my skill set. So
that's awesome. I really appreciate that. It was leading right into one of my questions that I had that I was going to save, but the low hanging fruit of, it seems overwhelming of building out a sales team and cold callers and all this stuff. It's like, well, what's right in your phone? What's in your contact? And go out and sell it first. And then you'll figure it out on the back end, right? I talked about backs against the wall concept, where sometimes that's the best fuel, is going out there, not having a product, selling the idea. And then if somebody's willing to put their money where their mouth is, oh, okay, now I'll deliver. You'll have a different urgency on figuring these things out. So guys, this last 36 minutes was incredible. I'm excited to jump into the member only Q&A right now. So that's the way that we're going to pivot. For those of you that are listening on the podcast, reach out, James and Zack, where can people find you to learn more about you? I know you guys have, you have some courses and different, maybe consulting opportunities, or just want to have a virtual coffee. Where can people find out more about you to maybe bother you a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on Twitter _James Lincoln. You can email me at james@goodlygrowth.com, or you can text me at 518-817-8338.
Oh man, he gave out the phone number. He gave out the phone number. All right, Zack, what about you?
On Twitter, it's at @palzack. My website for my company is gogrowyo.com. So you can go there, send an email, Zack@gogrowyo.com.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate it, guys. This is awesome. We're going to jump into the Q&A here. So for everybody that's listening, the only place to find this Q&A is inside the $1 Million Dads community, which is also the place that you can have more intimate and probably just more conversations with these two guys. I really appreciate you guys for being here. This is awesome. And by the amount of questions that we have on this page, this is going to be incredible. So thanks a lot, guys.